Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Ju-on, The Grudge 2 is over. It will never stop. It will grow. It will hurt anyone it touches. Andy, I might surprise you to hear that after 3 previous Ju-on movies, I come to this one telling you that as madcap campy as this one veers into, it actually has more going on than the first 3 combined. And I found myself the teeniest bit engaged in this movie.
You make it sound like you've hated all the others when I really think it's just the third one, the one that everyone else generally says is the best of the franchise, that you say is actually the worst of the lot thus far.
That's true, but I'm leaning into the bit.
Yeah.
For entertainment purposes. But this one does something different.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I'm curious because this one you're like madcap and I like the antics and everything. I'm curious where you're going with kind of your description here. Where's the madcap? Is it comedy, madcap? What in it feels madcap?
Maybe there is an image. There are a couple of images where, what's her name? Kayako, ghost girl, where she shows up and she like moves into frame and it is a full-on Zoinks Scoob reveal. Like eyes are wide, hair is doing craziness, and it's not sinister. It's just like, it's boo. And I laugh out loud at those moments. I also laugh out loud at, I'm really torn with it. Okay, let's get into it. There is a scene. There's a sequence, a set of sequences across this, where, again, we're doing the anthology bit, where we get the coolest thing that has happened in this series of movies, where the ghost interactions are happening across time. So she hears the thudding against the wall, right, and is scared about it and invites him over, and they're all, boo, it's scary because there's thudding. We don't know what the thudding against the wall is. We only discover later when, like, this is a real high and low moment because the concept is so cool and the hair begins to grow and nooses these characters and is hanging them from the ceiling, and it's their own feet banging against the wall, which is so cool, but the hair is so stupid. I thought the moving hair was so dumb. I was laughing out loud. I was like, I don't know how to rationalize this because I so love the idea that they're trying to sell, and I was laughing at it. I really was. I mean, there is stuff in here that I think is genuinely awesome, and the execution is, for me, pretty laughable. That hair.
Well, it's not the execution. It's the actual concept that you don't like.
I don't think that's true.
I mean, the execution, I don't know. I would say that's how they did it.
Yes.
In like the process of how the filmmakers came to actually make it work in the relation of the film, whereas what it sounds like...
What is the concept?
The concept that you don't like is the fact that in the story, Kayako's hair has become this its own living thing or whatever. It's kind of covered the hair of the girl's room, and it's now like stringing nooses together and hanging them from the ceiling.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just want to verify. It's not the special effects and all of that in the making of the film, although it could be that. That's where I just want to clarify.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm saying here. Like you've said 2 things that are both true. That I think the hair has come off the rails in this movie. The way the hair is working, the effect doesn't work for me, right? And in the room, the effect doesn't work for me with them noosed up. The way the hair kind of crawls and moves, I think looks ridiculous. And I'm leaving the door open because I love the conceit so much. Like, I love the concept that there is a universe where crazy hair girl could actually noose people up with the hair in the ceiling. It just didn't work here for me. I found myself I think the Toshio still works for me. Haunted Ghost Boy. Kayako officially has lost all bits of sinister haunting. I just laughed every time she was there. I'm done with Kayako officially.
What about the end appearance of Kayako? Were you laughing at that one, or did you like that?
Give me an example of how the end worked for you.
Well, I'm just saying,
I'm going to assume it did. Did it not?
You can safely assume everything in this film pretty much worked for me. I'm talking specifically about her being birthed.
Yeah.
And just the entire process of that. And I'm trying to figure out, my hunch is that you were laughing at that too, whereas I thought it was pretty clever and creepy way to kind of like have her, in a way, reborn, this evil entity getting reborn.
Right. And this is the real curse of this movie for me, is that I'm going to be haunted by the what could have been in my head, because I think leaning more into body horror and the pregnancy and the curse over time is really genuinely good. I just think I'm so done with Kayako as an antagonist that I don't know what they could do to bring back anything sort of sinister. I liked the idea of the end too. I think going in that direction, the little montagey bits at the end too. I mean, I think it's all really good. And because it was Kayako, maybe I was so done with it. It became funny. The difference is there is room for it to be sinister and serious in my head. Like the movie I was making in my head was scarier.
I'm really curious now for you to look at some other prominent J-horror films and see if there's something in the style that Japanese filmmakers are doing that kind of just rub you the wrong way, that it's a style that isn't clicking for you. Like, I'm curious, are you going to say, yeah, no, I don't, none of these end up working for me? Or are you going to find that it's largely just Takashi Shimizu and the way that he makes his films? So I'm curious about that.
Well, look, I was complaining about this to, obviously, our friend of the show, Next Reel True Story colleague, Tommy Metz, who is also a horror aficionado. And his comment was, look, you have to go watch Ringu because that's one of my favorite films, like just favorite. It is absolutely nails everything it's trying to do. And that fits in this space. I really think if you don't like these movies, you may like that movie. Was that part of your curriculum for CinemaScope?
I have a whole bunch of J-horror movies that are going to be over on my CinemaScope episode next month that you can certainly jump into. Ringu and Ju-on the Grudge both were two of them that were discussed.
Okay.
And I also love Ringu. And I think Ringu is a fantastic film. Of the J-horror remakes, Ringu's remake, The Ring, actually is probably the one that does the best. My memory was at the time that The Grudge with Sarah Michelle Gellar was actually pretty good, but your recent review, actually, I don't know if I really should take your review into heart because, again, it's Takashi Shimizu writing, directing, and I just have a feeling this series is really not for you. So, but I don't know. I'd be curious, like, if you looked at Ringu, if you looked at Darkwater, if you looked at a number of these other stories, how would it play for you?
Okay. I mean, you know me, Andy. I watched Starship Troopers 2 because you told me to. I'm looking for Ringu right now.
You told yourself that you
told me
to happen in your life.
You said, Pete, you have to go watch Starship Troopers 2, and you have to watch it before you're allowed to watch anything else. And
for those forgetting, last week I mentioned in the awards section that Ju-on the Grudge won or was nominated for Best DVD Release at the Saturn Awards, losing to Starship Troopers 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pete said, I'm going to watch that. And he sure did.
He sure did. There it is. I already subscribed to a service that has Ringu. I'm leaving this open. I'm going to watch it because like I said, like I think it's Kayako. I think it's these movies.
Did you watch the Ring remake, the English with Naomi Watts?
No.
Okay.
So I should do that too. Is that what you're saying?
Well, just so you know, Ringu also has an antagonist who has long black hair and comes after people. So
okay.
I'll be curious how Sadako plays for you. Yeah. Kayako and Sadako are the two. We'll talk about it because in this franchise, there is a crossover film. Just like Freddy versus Jason.
Are you kidding me?
There is a Sadako versus Kayako film.
How could you tell them apart? They both have long dark hair and like crawl around.
Yeah.
That's the image I have, right? Because doesn't she crawl out of the TV in Ringu?
She crawls out of the well. She crawls out of the TV.
She crawls out of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she doesn't crawl out of a pregnant woman. I haven't seen all the Ring films. It's possible.
Maybe there's a pregnant woman in there.
Oh, man.
Okay. All right. So meanwhile, back to The Grudge 2. Here's some things that I really liked about it. Can I tell you? I like the opening. I think that in general, one of the things this movie does over the Grudge is that I think it approaches horror a little bit more aggressively, right? The Grudge is more about the slow build. You start with kind of the slow atmospheric silence, and then you get these sort of 10 to 15 minutes, you get a sharp spike, right? You get the closet croak or the figure in the bed or something that's intended to build the dread that or pay off the dread that the film is holding back, right? Super minimalist. I'd argue stingy in that restraint. And The Grudge 2, the intensity starts higher. I like that we start in the car. I like that there's kind of the hit and run vibe. That's like horrifying on its own human level, let alone what it actually represents. And I think that the intention behind the scares stays higher and a little bit more sort of jagged. Like I'm imagining a graph of scares over time. And I think The Grudge 2 intends to stay higher, leaning into the body horror, leaning into the hair effects and the labor scene. And I think it's much more spectacle than subtlety in The Grudge 2. It's certainly more surreal than I guess Suburban. And I think part of that is the change in setting, like moving to this film conceit, making this TV show, I think works well for me, particularly over the first one.
Well, and I figured after I watched this one that you were going to like this one. This has a different vibe. Instead of like following a variety of people over a period of time where it's like one person who goes to the Seiki house who ends up getting cursed, but not until they've already crossed paths with somebody else. And it's kind of like a number of different people over a long period of time. Now, granted, this does take place over several months, but still, we're following one group of people that were part of this crew that you said, this film crew that came to film part of this haunted house TV show. And what we're seeing is the various people who were involved in that production, whether it's the guest kind of cameo horror queen actress that they have who is brought in to kind of just like be part of it, whether it's one of the extras that's brought in, whether it's the director or the hair, makeup, wardrobe lady, like a number of these different people are kind of involved in this curse. And I thought that was actually pretty interesting. And now that I say that, the extras, it was actually one of the extras who was involved was actually following the horror queen later, who ends up kind of seeing Toshio. So that's the one story that kind of shifts. But otherwise, it's largely that group of people that we're seeing run into the ghostly versions of Kayako and Toshio because they decided to go into that house and film in there. And so we're centering more with a group of people, which we really haven't had on any of the previous stories, because It's like somebody is cursed. They cross paths with somebody else. That first person dies. Now the second person, and it just kind of like it's this chain. And here it's like a group. And so I think that it probably was just there's a sense of, I mean, you've said it before, where it's difficult to connect with anybody because you're not following anybody for a longer period of time. And here you actually have a core group that you kind of are following through the film.
Yeah, it's more cohesive. I think seeing how the characters connect with each other matters to me, right? And I think it increases for me the emotional connection I have with these characters. Like I'm more interested, as silly as it as it gets. It's loud and messy and silly, and I think changing up the context, the pregnancy works really well, the film crew works really well, and also giving me a group of people that I feel like are connecting with each other in a way that I can connect with them, I think changes the game for this movie. And I guess I turn it back to you, because I know that just saying all of those things makes it feel maybe more Western of a film than what the first three movies get. Is that a fair assessment? Is this like culturally adapting to more Western-y tropes, or where the surreal, cerebral original Curse movies are much more sort of Japanese?
I don't think it has anything to do with being more Japanese. I mean, it's not really a trend that you see in many of the J-horror films, but I do think that I think your issue really is the fact that you don't like how Shimizu structured the films, where we're getting vignettes of stories, and each story is largely its own little thing. And so you only really have that amount of time to follow the characters. And I think your preference is probably to have characters who you can follow through the course of an entire film and feel more connected to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a fair observation.
And that's not what Shimizu set out to do. Like, he set out to tell, it's really just the story of this curse, and we're following it back and forth in time, seeing how it affects all these different groups of people. And that's really what we've seen over the course of all four of the films. It's just here, because it's this one group, that's kind of just changed the structure a little bit for you. Even though we are still jumping around back and forth in time, there are stories that seem to not necessarily connect immediately. And so there are still those elements.
Yeah, but you make a good point, which is that, like, if there's a character to follow in the first movies, it's not the characters who are being subjected to the curse. It's Kayako, right? Like, that's the character to follow. But that is a non-traditional character to follow. And we're not used to that. I'm not used to that, saying, okay, you're going to follow the murderous ghost, and that's the character you need to care the most about, because I don't think it's a multi-dimensional character. I'm not interested.
But he's not saying that's the one you need to care the most about. I don't think that was the intention in designing it that way.
Well,
I just think we're following the curse, and I don't think it means that Kayako now has to be a fully developed, rounded character. That's not what I was saying.
Okay, but the curse itself is not a fully developed and interesting thing to follow, and I think that's the struggle. I don't feel like in those first movies there's so little variety in what Kayako does that keeping an eye on Kayako's interpretation across time is not a compelling watch. In this movie, I think because we have a little bit more to care about in terms of our character economy, I think Kayako's sort of thrust into their lives gives me an anchor. It gives me something to think about, to watch over the course. The pregnancy is the ticking clock, right? Like there is an inevitability to what's going to happen to her life, to her career, and to her relationships. And I think that's something we can hold on to. And so, we could relitigate the first three movies for the rest of our time together, but I do want to celebrate the things that I think work really well in this movie, because it was refreshing.
Yeah. So walking through some of the stories, I'm just kind of curious, like, I want to just kind of touch on each of the stories, because I think there are interesting elements in each of them. We start the film following Kayako and her husband Masashi as he's picked her up from that shoot. We don't know, which made the opening act really interesting because we have husband and wife in a car driving, talking about like the fact that she's pregnant and she's an actress and what are you going to do? How are you going to? She hasn't told anybody yet, so she's biding her time as an actress. And then they hit something, stop the car, and it's a cat that they had hit. It's Toshio's cat. Toshio's there. Toshio ends up in the car once they get back in and are driving. And it's a great creepy shot as she looks down on the floor between her husband's legs, and Toshio's down there and he's holding the steering wheel. So her husband's having a hard time steering and they crash the car and end up in the hospital. She loses the baby. Her husband ends up in a coma. That's kind of kicking things off. And I was just like, this is fascinating because I have no idea why these two people are being attacked. Like it just was like, it's felt completely random. Is it like they hit the ghost cat in the street and so now Toshio's coming after them? And
what is Ghost Cat doing in the street?
Right. And so I loved the setup for this. I mean, you liked the start of it?
Oh yeah. I thought that's a huge win. I think that's a really intense bit of action and uncertainty, and the fact that, I mean, I loved it when he gets out to check the cat and she's kind of crawls across and is looking down under the car and keeps seeing the feet walk by, like Toshio's feet. I think that's really intense. That's a great way to kick us off. And I think you're right. Like, we don't know where in time this is going to fit invariably because we know what Shimizu does, but that works for me here, right? That uncertainty works for me in hindsight because we're grounded in following their experience, their sort of human experience with the curse over time.
Yeah, and I think that's what's interesting. And we have this relationship that's built. We understand that it's tragic now that they've been in this accident, they've lost the baby, and we kind of then follow her. And this is another thing that I think we see happen a few times in this film, where Shimizu is really kind of playing with where we are and how things are going, because we see her in the hospital. She goes and tries to check on her husband who's in a coma in the next room. But through the glass, you get this really blurry version where you just see Toshio's head pop up. And so she tries to go in the room and Toshio comes up and like puts his hand on her belly. Like, no, it's like, no, you can't come in here. But it's also, I don't know. It's like, is that the moment that Kayako kind of gets implanted in her, sort of thing, So yeah. It was an interesting moment. And then she like goes in an elevator to leave and she ends up like on the wrong floor in the basement and it's all messed up and it's super creepy. She walks into another room and she sees something and these three schoolgirls run in and one of them screams and you hear cut and you realize, oh, somewhere in there we jumped time periods. And again, that's something we haven't really seen Shimizu playing around with other than the title cards taking us to different places in the story. Here we get just suddenly 3.5 month jump into the future as she's back at work. And here she is in the middle of this movie with these schoolgirls. And we end up following Chihiro later as she's the schoolgirl who screamed, and we find out why and what happens to her. So that's another thing that I think, okay, he's really playing around with stuff here.
Well, and that's my question for you. What did you think of that? Like it's sort of, I'll say this tongue in cheek a little bit. It's ambiguity overload, right? Like, what did you think of not having the explicit breaks?
We do have the explicit breaks, but that was a place where we just didn't get one.
Yeah.
But I don't think we needed it because we're following the same character, and it made for just a fun way to kind of shift the story to a different time and place.
I think so too. I think it works really, really well. I think it is the example that I think proves the rule, that I think the ambiguity works really well, and I kind of wanted more of it. Like, I want fewer explicit breaks, more let me be a part of the mystery. I think that makes me work harder and keeps me engaged. I liked it. I think it was great.
And then the next story is one you don't like. That's Tomika, and she's the one who's at her home doing homework, and she starts hearing this thumping, and she recognizes that it's as we find out later, she's hearing it at the same time every night, like 12:17 or something.
Yep.
Every night she's hearing these thumps on the wall and can't figure out what's going on. Kind of freaks out. She has this vision when she comes in once. She thinks her boyfriend's there, or she sees him in the other room. She sees his shape in the darkness. But from our perspective, it's like, it kind of looks like he's standing on a table, like he looks higher than he should. And then she looks down and realizes his shoes aren't there. And she's like, what's going on? And she goes in there and then there's nothing there. So we're getting kind of that
peeking across time.
Well, just which we've seen over the course of this franchise with more of these different sorts of things where these ghostly shadows are appearing and everything. Lights are on, lights are off. Somebody's there, somebody's not. Like, we're seeing that sort of stuff quite a bit. But yeah, this is the story that you don't like the hair nooses.
I like everything else. Everything else.
That, yeah. Because it's interesting the way that it plays. Like, her and her boyfriend, all of that, when we see Toshio is the one like swinging the body into the wall.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's really great. I really like this. I like the idea of peeking, like when she invites him over to listen to the mysterious thumping at 12:17 or whatever, like that. I think is the kind of notch in the story that builds toward the later intensity. Like, I'm thinking about what could it be? What's in the wall? And that's what was so great about this reveal, is that there's nothing in the wall. It's actually, you're hearing your own death, right? That is legitimately a freaky reveal. Legitimately freaky reveal. And the fact that I didn't like the creeping hair as a way to get them there is separate from the issue of the conceit itself, which is pitch perfect.
I really do like the moment where her boyfriend comes in thinking that she's home because he's seeing the lights on, and then he goes through the door and it's off, and then suddenly things are on. Like, he's kind of getting those mind games. And there's a point when he's in the other room and it's dark, and you can just see out of the top of the frame, dark, like Kayako's dark hair, just like coming down toward him. You know, we kind of had something similar in the last movie when she's in bed and Kayako is standing behind her and bends over her, and her hair comes down in front of her face. So those sorts of moments, I like the way that he's playing with how she's not always appearing in places that you would normally expect somebody to appear, you know?
Right. Like, you know, a womb.
And then we follow Megumi, who is the hair makeup wardrobe lady, and we see that she's set up in the murder room in the house, which is like, you're watching this and you're like, God, this is dark. There's this stain on the floor that she can't get past.
The butt stain. It's such a butt-shaped stain. Really captured the butt shape.
It's where Kayako's body, wrapped in the bag, had been left by her husband after he'd killed her before he took her up into the attic. And so it's just kind of a blood stain in kind of a butt shape that we have on the floor there. And she's freaked out because of all of this going on. And nobody really likes being in this house. She forgets something has to go back up. She hates it. And when she goes back to the studio, ends up in a situation where, again, we have Kayako appearing. The stain is now following her. You know, we actually see the stain appear there. And I think this is this where she crawls out of the stain? Where Kayako crawls out of the stain?
I thought that was in the changing room.
Oh, I loved the setup of this, that she has all of the wigs on her counter.
Yeah.
And it's the wig that actually kind of suddenly like falls off and then is moving around the floor, and and Kayako's head kind of comes up out of the floor. It's like they played with that well. I thought that was, once I saw those wigs, I'm like, there's something with the wig.
There's going to be some hair stuff. I wish I liked the hair stuff more. It felt like this, when the wig is crawling around, I thought, okay, we're in a Star Trek episode. This is like, might as well be a Tribble. So I definitely get the intention, and
yeah,
boy, it made me laugh.
We've switched to the director, Keisuke. Oh, and one thing we didn't mention that I think is interesting is that when Kayako like she's still living with her mom, and her mom dies in her story.
Yes.
Like she comes home and finds her mom dead.
Under a table.
Well, I think that's just a Japanese thing where they kind of, the way that they're setting themselves, they sit themselves up at their tables and stuff.
I know, but with the blanket too. That's the thing I hadn't seen, right? There's a blanket. The table was on top of the blanket.
Well, yeah, it's like, I think that's her bed.
It's like the reading table.
It's like, you know, a little table you have in your bed, like the little breakfast in bed sort of table that you prop up on yourself. But I think, you know, maybe, I don't know the Japanese culture, but I was just like, okay, so she's older. This is just where she sleeps, but then it also is a place where she can conveniently just eat when she wants to.
Yeah.
So that's how I saw it. I was like curious about the way that mom dies, especially knowing what happens later with mom. Do you think mom died of natural causes? Because I lean toward that because of the way things play later.
Well, and also because it doesn't, I'm trying to kind of chart past old people deaths. Like because we have enough evidence from past movies, the old man playing peekaboo with Toshio, like the deaths for the older people tend to be less gruesome. So even if she died of natural causes, it could be Grudge adjacent.
Well, but the reason that I wonder is because in the Keisuke story, this is the director, he comes to Kayako, the actress, because he's freaked out because so many people that have been involved in that production have died, right? He finds out that Megumi is dead. Like he heard her screaming, he said, and he went in there and she was dead. He also says the cameraman and the sound guy are both dead. So he is recognizing that because of the fact that they went and filmed in that house, now people are dying. Kayako, he thinks she kind of skirted it because they got into a car accident and kind of thinks that, oh, you must be okay, but like what's going on? And he's kind of freaking out, and he's the one who's like sleeping at his computer, and you see, like he sees the footage where the sound guy had heard something, and when they were filming, we don't hear, nobody hears anything. But as it turns out, it was Kayako, and now that actually plays on the tape. And Toshio appears and he comes to the camera and all this sort of stuff. He sees the photocopy machine where Kayako's coming to him in the copy machine. So he's like totally freaking out. He goes to see Kayako, and at her house, this is where Kayako has that moment where Tomaka comes out of the hole, right? She's the one who rises up out of the stain to come at her. But it's her mom, it's the ghost of her mom who grabs her and saves her, like pulls her out of that moment. And then, and the ghost is gone.
Interesting.
And when she kind of looks around and all the ghosts are gone, the candles on her mom's altar have been blown out.
Yeah.
And so because of that moment, that's what makes me think maybe it was natural, because no one else has come to like stop a ghost from attacking.
Yeah. So mom dies and becomes an agent of good in the afterlife.
Something.
Yeah.
Right. Like she's trying to protect her daughter.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can see it. I kind of like the idea that people are in the universe of this movie are still allowed to die normally.
It's very rare.
Very, very rare.
This is at their house, or at her house, because they arrive at her house and Megumi is on the porch and goes in, and they go into the house looking for Megumi because they're like, she's dead. What the heck is going on? They separate and look around the house. Megumi comes to him to give him the journal, and he freaks out and then recognize the journal for what it is. Kayako goes back to the house to figure out, to try to solve this or something. like with the journal and everything else. And that's where she starts having these, like she's downstairs and she sees Chiharu, who at this time she has not worked with before. So we're getting these time jumps, which we did get in the last film. Actually, we did get that the cop, the detective, seeing his daughter like 10 years later.
Yes.
Across time. So we're getting that again here, where she's now seeing Chiharu at the house months later. And Chiharu is freaking out because Kayako's crawling down the stairs toward her, and Kyoko passes out. And then, and that's when I don't think we get Keisuke coming into the house yet. I think now we cut to Chiharu's story, which for me, I think was the most interesting of the stories, because we are seeing her story. This is the extra who was in the film months later with Kyoko, and who sees Toshio holding his hand up to Kyoko's belly, right? So, and she screams because she sees the ghost, totally freaking out. So she's drawn to the house, and Kayako's there and comes at her, but then we start getting this jump, like we're following her brain as she's jumping back and forth in time, right? We're seeing like this crazy like video footage, like her POV. We're seeing this, it starts with this black and white kind of like artsy footage of like floating over the city. And I was like, are we in a dream? Like, what's going on here? But we're seeing like almost like the moment she's taken and she's like jumping around in time. Like I couldn't figure out what was going on, but the way that he crafted that I thought was really fascinating. And like we hadn't seen a story told quite that way before.
No, and I agree with you, especially because like it's Chiharu in the stairwell, right? When the endless stairwell loop, and she keeps running and running and never escapes. And we have the echo of Kayako's croaking, and she is representative of kind of the structural unraveling that comes at the end of this movie, right? The spatial distortion, but leads into ultimately the collapse of everybody's sort of identity into the the curse, as we realize that the curse is cursed sort of time itself for all of these people. It's really Chiharu who we saw early in the movie being introduced to this, even though we didn't see what she was seeing at the time. We got to see her being introduced to this, the unraveling as it began for her way back when, which I think it's an interesting sort of structural kind of crescendo to the end of the movie. And it's all sort of rooted in her transformation.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating the way that unfolded and led to her getting taken by Kayako, as we so often have, and which is what throws Kyoko like into that kind of like not coma, but she's unconscious. And that's when we get to our last story, which is again Kayako, which is generally what happens. This is when Keisuke finds her and takes her to the hospital and is afraid for the baby. He sees that little charm that she had been given, like for easy childbirth, and so he knows she's pregnant and rushes her to the hospital and is waiting. And we also see her husband, who's come out of his coma, and they kind of set him on the roof in the wheelchair, but we know that he's been seeing the ghost too, and he starts a seizure. She starts going into birth. He's waiting, trying to figure out what's going on. We cut back to the roof. The wheelchair is toppled over. No sign of her husband. And that's when the doctors are like, what's going on? The womb is shrinking. Like they can't figure out what's going on. And then of course we have Toshio's in there. Keisuke comes back in. All the doctors are dead on the floor. And then we have the birth of Kayako, and Keisuke gets killed. And then finally Kyoko wakes up and there's a baby wrapped in plastic or something on the ground, and it's her baby, and it's a baby, which flashed back to when, like, I was like, is this something tying to when Kayako's husband went and killed the baby of the guy that, the new baby
in the first one,
wrapped in the bundle that he was beating. It looked a little bit like that. It was reminiscent, But that leads us to that final moment where this is again years later, where we have a little girl walking with her mom, which is Kayako, and the daughter is a little devil. And I was like, this is a really interesting shift. And I can see why when Shimizu describes this, he kind of says this is like the first complete, like these first 4 films are kind of a complete little story of Ju-on. The later films are different reinterpretations, their own stories, whatever. But the way that he described it is he viewed this as like the end of the first story. And I thought that was a fascinating way to end it, with a rebirth of Kayako.
Yeah, it's like it's a handoff to the bad seed.
Yeah, or Damien or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so this one, I think in that regard, and maybe that's what you're describing, is why it feels like one of the more rewarding watches for me, because it feels like it sort of completes so many things for me. And there's so much wrought between the first 2 movies overlapping as they do, so much of the sort of reinterpretation for the first cinematic version in The Grudge. Like there's a lot of cruft in there, and this one feels like it's taking in everything that we know, giving us just enough new, and resolving an arc that maybe I didn't even see was on the horizon of being resolved. All of that is satisfying. I love hair coming out of the drain. That's one that worked, right? I think that was Megumi's bathroom hair attack, where the hair pours out of the drain and pulls her under. Suffocation via hair. It's kind of unintentionally funny, but I like it. Like it breaks subtlety. Right. And anytime the movie does that, I was in.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious. I mean, we were talking about Ringu. I'm curious how that franchise continues, because this franchise, like, there's a difference between watching a film from it and feeling like you have an understanding as what the franchise is doing, or what the filmmaker is trying to do. And again, going back to our conversation last week, like, I think you would probably have a different feel for Ju-on the Grudge had it been the first one, and for a long time the only one of the franchise you had seen. Like, that was your representation of what it was.
Totally agree.
Same thing with Ringu. Like, I'd be curious, like, you'll probably enjoy Ringu, I would think, but I'm curious, like, if you continue watching those films, are you going to find them also as equally trying and frustrating? Because you're going to feel like it's the same thing. She keeps crawling out of wells. She keeps crawling out of TVs. Like, give me something new. You know?
Right. Yeah. You know what? Scary guys in hockey masks also do a lot of stabbing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I get the sort of talking out of both sides of my face regarding repetitive scares.
Right. Because you enjoy the Final Destination films, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Even though they are very much following the same formula. And it's just like, okay, well, how is somebody going to get killed this time?
Well, exactly. And that's the game of the Final Destination films. And I feel like the puzzle of those films, being able to try to put together how somebody's going to get killed, is where I get enjoyment. This movie, if there's a croak, I know she's coming. I know already how she's going to get. And I think this movie, as silly and campy as some of the hair effects are, they're different. There are things that are new here. And we get to actually see some of the horror that is hidden in the first 3 movies behind, dread, splashy face of scary boo monster, hard cut to something else, right? Like, here, we actually get to see some of what Kayako is capable of, and I find that satisfying, right? That's what I've needed all along.
Well, and that's why last week I also compared it to the Halloween franchise, because again, it's not like the Final Destination films, because you're just watching Michael Myers go around killing people. And sure, he might kill people in different ways, like,
now he's hanging them on a hook. Right.
It's like, it's a killer killing people. It's like, is it what weapon is he wielding? And so I think that there's inevitably, I think in any franchise, you're going to get some of that repetitiveness that I think sometimes can work. Sometimes it'll feel repetitive. Sometimes you don't mind the repetitive nature of it. It really depends. And I think that's something that for me, I find in this franchise, I really enjoy. Like, I see the differences, the different ways that people are getting killed, the way that the curse is shifting and moving, and I'm enjoying it. And I think for you, it was a harder buy-in from the jump to really get on board with the way that this curse was playing out. And it wasn't something that you immediately connected to or found as scary.
Well, found as scary. I think that's the trick. That the fact that I found myself laughing at Kayako more than jumping at her appearance, I think it's pretty telling. Like that makes the movie almost a lampoon of itself, and that's a hard way to watch a horror movie, right? Whatever the intention was, and so that's. I mean, I recognize that's a me problem. That's absolutely a me problem. I don't find this antagonist threatening, and even like the hair adds something to it in some of these sequences, but. That's why in the first three movies, I became exhausted. And I think it's because I just couldn't take the scares seriously. Or I get what they were trying to do. It just didn't play. And that's fine, because this movie itself was rewarding on many of the fronts that I found exhausting in the first three. This one, I think, helped me a lot.
And I can see that. I didn't have the problems you did, but I can see, obviously, the hair itself became, or not the hair, but like that look became such something that was easy to parody. Like you would end up seeing it in the Scary Movie movies, or in,
sure.
I think that I'm sure in one of the boxes at the end of Cabin in the Woods, I'm sure there's Kayako.
Oh, there's had to be hair, right?
Yeah, there's hair galore in one of those boxes. So I'm sure that it's just something that you are able to easily end up making fun of. And so, yeah. And I'm curious, like, I haven't watched much more of this franchise, but I'm curious, like, where it goes, especially like, well, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So let's actually save that. We'll talk about where it goes from here. So
you got it.
I don't know. Any other points?
No, it's good.
All right, then we'll be right back. But first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Skygaze, Icolics, Or Chausa, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. Does your hair wander? Does it slip across the floorboards when you're not looking? Does it slide up the wall when you're trying to relax, or mysteriously wrap around your friends at the worst possible time? Don't worry, that's just natural. And when life gets that tangled, you deserve something that helps you take control. That's where Letterboxd comes in. Because just like the perfect conditioner, Letterboxd smooths out the chaos in your movie life. With an upgrade to Pro or Patron, you'll save 20% using the code NEXTREEL, and you'll get the glossy benefits you've been craving. Imagine! No third-party ads clogging your diary. Personalized annual and all-time stats pages that shine with every film you've watched. You can filter your favorite streaming services and get notified the moment that exclusive movie finally arrives. You'll see your friends' average ratings, track films you own, filter your activity feed by type, pin content to your profile, even manage tags and duplicate lists with ease. And yes, custom app icons. So even your phone looks as radiant as you do. Me? I'm Neon Demon. Giggle. So whether your watch list is cascading down your shoulders, creeping across the carpet, or just looking for that extra bit of cinematic body and bounce, Letterboxd Pro or Patron are here for you. Letterboxd, because your film life deserves a little extra shine. Sequels and remakes, Andy. Sequels and remakes. Goodness gracious. Didn't you tell me there were 14 total films? We have 10 more to go?
15 total films.
Oh, goodness.
Now that's counting short films. So that is also, so technically by watching Kanasumi and 4, we've seen 6 of them so far. And you've seen 8 of them.
Right.
Because you went and watched the 2004 Grudge, and you watched the
2019, 2020. I call it the John Cho Grudge.
Yeah, the 2020 one, right?
Yes.
And I have seen the Grudge. So, okay, so starting with the short films, we had 15 films. So after these 4, then you get the 3 American remakes, The Grudge 2, The Grudge 3. Then for its 10th anniversary, you get Ju-on Black Ghost and Ju-on White Ghost, which are each 1-hour films that are totally not related. So I'm really curious about those because they aren't following Kayako at all. You're just following different, I don't know if it's a different ghost. I'm not exactly sure who it is. Like the Black Ghost revolves around a hospitalized young girl who discovers that a cyst is found in her body, which is actually the physical remnant of her unborn twin. Sounds totally different. But again, it's jumping around in time through chronology. And same thing with White Ghost. I think White Ghost features the husband. I think he has a cameo in that. But again, they're largely totally separate. So you got those 2. Then you have kind of the reboots, starting with Ju-on, The Beginning of the End, which is a reboot, and then Ju-on, The Final Curse. Then you have the crossover, which is Sadako versus Kayako, leading to the most recent remake, the 2020 Grudge that you watched. You also have another short film in 2006 called Tales from the Grudge. Then you have the TV series in 2020, Ju-on Origins, which goes back in time and sets it all up. And actually, from my understanding, talking on my CinemaScope podcast about J-horror, it does Kayako a disservice, and it makes her relationship, it makes her seem like more complicit in what ends up happening with her husband, which doesn't sound great.
Oh.
So that's film TV. Then you have a video game, Ju-on the Grudge from 2009. You've got all these novels and novelizations that started in 2003 and go to 2015. You've got comics, you've got a graphic novel, and as I mentioned before, you actually have a pachinko machine. So, I mean, it's a very popular franchise. And horror doesn't always find the popularity in Japan, but this is one of the franchises that has been fairly successful. So, and you can tell just because there's so much stuff, even if
so many,
a lot of it, like I hear after Black Ghost, White Ghost, I hear all the rest of them are a real drop in quality. So if you were already struggling with some of these ones, you may not want to continue after Black Ghost, White Ghost.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually, as much of a buzzkill as I've been about these movies so far, I'm actually really curious to kind of exercise that completionist vibe. But man, one, they're, finding them all and watching them right is challenging. And 2, you're not sweetening the deal after those 2.
I'm curious if Ju-on, Black Ghost, and White Ghost are available. It looks like Ju-on, Black Ghost you can watch on Crunchyroll if you are subscribed to that. And each of these is only an hour.
Yeah.
They're both on Crunchyroll. So if you have a Crunchyroll,
well, that would be good. I need to watch The Grudge 2 and 3.
The American ones? Are you sure
the American ones? Do we need to do any of this?
I just want to say, I wasn't the one who pushed you to watch Starship Troopers 2. That was all on you. And now
you told me
next week you're probably going to say, Andy made me watch The Grudge 2 and 3.
Yeah. You put the gate up. You said, in order to watch RRR. No, in order to what you I don't know. You did it. I just know that you did it.
At the very least, you need to watch RRR because that's a good movie, and you keep putting it off. And so I'm like, if you're going to stoop to the level to watch Starship Troopers 2, at least do me the favor of finally watching RRR.
Yeah, so you put that gate up, so I had to watch Starship Troopers. That's what I'm hearing. Anyway, it's going to be fine. I got you. I will report back. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Yes,
I'm going to watch them all this week.
I can't wait to see the full report all the way up through the TV series. So
yeah,
do it all.
Oh my God, the TV series. All right. How to do an award season?
Didn't have a good run at awards. One nomination at the Sitges Catalonian International Film Festival, where it was nominated for Best Film, but lost to The Blind Swordsman, Zatoichi.
Oh, I haven't seen that either. Have you seen it?
I've seen a one of the Zatoichi films, but I don't know if that's the one that I've seen.
Yeah, no, this one is well regarded.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, might have to put this on the list. Oh. So we can do a follow-up on the Catalonian International Film Festival. Okay. How to do at the box office? Did it get us any traction? Do you have any numbers?
Well, Pete, like everything in this series, there is just no budget information, unfortunately. This film also didn't apparently have a domestic release, though it did premiere in LA August 19th, 2005. But it sounds like that's it as far as actual theatrical play here in the States. This is weird, though. It did open in Japan August 23rd, 2003, seemingly side by side with the first film. But I don't know. The first film, played in 2002 at Screamfest. And then it says it didn't play theatrically till August 23rd, 2003. I don't know if there's faulty information online and they've just somebody crossed their data as far as the release dates, but they're both listed as having been released theatrically in Japan August 23rd, 2003. It's entirely possible, and that's all I found, unfortunately. So anyway, this movie went on to earn $2.7 million internationally, or $4.7 million in today's dollars. So not as well as the first film, but still decent enough.
All right. I'm glad we finally got here. I'm glad we didn't have to end on Pete being such a horrible downer.
I know. I'll be honest, this was a real surprising turn in the franchise, and I had a great time watching this one.
That's a really good point. I expected this to be bad, which maybe also is why I thought it was sort of good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to number 4 in a series, and it's like, okay, really, what are we doing? Even though you could say this was kind of number 2, but really it was number 6. Right. Like, come on.
It's hard to say. But yeah, no, I get it. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And so far, my curiosity has piqued to check out more of these, but maybe just Black Ghost, White Ghost.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's it for this series. Next week, we're going to be kicking off our Golden Jubilee 1975's Pioneering Visions in Global Cinema series with Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. Here's a quick break. We'll be right back with our ratings. Welcome, brave soul, to the haunted heart of cinema. I'm your host, a humble explorer of the macabre, and this is a journey into the unknown, where the lines between film and reality blur. As we venture deeper into this haunted house, the air grows colder, the shadows longer. But fear not, for we are not alone here. The spirits that linger in these halls are not the vengeful ghosts of legend, but something altogether different. Follow me and let us discover the secret that dwells within these walls. Behold, The Next Reel, a film podcast that dares to explore the deepest, darkest corners of cinema. The spirits here are drawn to it, finding solace in the discussions of the films that haunt them. And now, the spirits whisper, you too can join this secret society. This cabal of cinephiles who gather in the haunted halls of The Next Reel. That's right, for just $5 a month, you can gain access to bonus episodes that venture into the lore of cinema, early access to the latest revelations, a personal podcast feed filled with exclusive content, and ad-free episodes to immerse yourself fully in the world of each film. The spirits urge you to visit truestory.fm/join to become a part of this haunted legacy. They promise a community of like-minded souls in the exclusive Discord channels, where the discussions are as lively as the undead. But be warned, once you join, there's no turning back. You'll be marked as one of us, a traveler in the macabre, forever seeking the next story to chill your blood and stir your soul. Will you join us, brave soul? Will you venture into the haunted heart of the next reel? The spirits eagerly await your presence at truestory.fm/join. The choice is yours. But remember, in the world of the next reel, every film is a ghost story waiting to be told, and every viewer is a part of the haunted legacy. truestory.fm/join. Join us. Join us.
Letterboxd, Andrew. Letterboxd.com/ the next reel. Is that what it is? Yeah, that's what it is. Letterboxd.com/ the next reel. That's where you can find our HQ page where we put all our reviews. That's where we assign our stars and hearts. What are you going to do for this one?
Again, I had a lot of fun with this one. For me, I put this on par with the first/third film because I just think that they did, like, Shimizu really changed things up with the story and made it a lot of fun in the way things are happening. So this is easy to give four and a heart to.
Okay. I came in. Oh man, what did I do? So I gave The Grudge 2.
You're 3 and a heart, 3 and a heart, 2 and a heart.
Yeah, so Curse 2, 3 and a heart. The Grudge, 2 stars.
And a heart. You relented and gave a heart.
I did? Okay, so I'll update that. And then, so for The Grudge 2, I think I came in hard 3 stars, no heart. But now, Andy, I'm going to give it a heart. What do you think of that?
So 3 stars. Look at that. So 3, 3, 2, 3 is your rating.
Yeah, 3, 3, 2, 3.
Okay. All with hearts. Look at that. Okay. Well, that averages out to 3.5 stars and a heart over at our account at The Next Reel over on Letterboxd. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film. You can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So what did you think about Ju-on the Grudge 2? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins. I mean, if you were to rank these in order of preference, what would your ranking be?
1, 4, 2, 3.
That sounds like about what I was thinking that you would end.
What would you do?
I would probably do 3, 4. But I mean, it could even be 4, 3. I might like this one the best. I'm torn between these two. Like, I really enjoy them. I'd probably do 4, 3, 1, 2.
4,
3,
3, 1,
or 3,
2.
4, 1, 2. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Okay, so I'm on the record as saying that I actually thought Toshio was scarier than Kayako.
Yes.
Because I think little kids are scary inherently. I'm terrified of them. As John Mulaney says, I'll butcher this. He's talking actually about teenagers, the only group that I detest and still want their approval. That's kind of how I feel about kids in general. Here we go. This is Evil Bjork, who gives it 2 stars. This movie felt like such a slog to get through, even though there is a consistent amount of scary scenes. I think it's because it's so hard to make a little boy in white makeup look menacing. There's even a scene in which she's squatting outside in broad daylight. It's so strange to see, and there was never a moment where it was actually scary. Directing isn't the worst, but it's not scary or interesting at all. Okay. All right.
Ouch.
Ouch for evil Bjork, but I get it.
Yeah,
The
I feel like
daylight.
that taps into your vibe with a lot
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. All right. What do you got?
I got Mason Kaiser's 3-star that says, "Me at the gender reveal party. Congratulations, it's a grudge."
Gross. There are a lot in that vibe. Boy, that Kayako can sure hold a grudge.
Right, yeah.
Okay, come on. Thanks, Letterboxd.